Okay.
This is Geek Gab with your host, Dornall, and me, Daddy Warpig. We are back, Geek Gab, for Saturday, May 21st, 2022. Dornall, welcome back, everybody. Dornall,
Hey,
week.
my week, fantastic. In the real world, we've got our perfect, beautiful spring weather, spending more time working out in the yard. In gaming or geeky life, I'm glad to have the Shadowrun character creation experiment behind me, as we discussed last week, as a terrible experiment, terrible system. Still playing lots of board games and let's see. It may be too soon, but I'm thinking about Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And we've been playing on Sundays a action-packed Combat Frame XSeed role-playing game. Hosted by our guest today. So I'd like to say nothing new, but it's all been good. It's all been fun.
Okay. Let's see. My week, I honestly can't remember most of it. Oh, and it's not because I drink, because I don't drink. And I find that deeply unfair. I mean, if I was drinking myself to blackout drunk status every night, then I could accept losing track of time and not remembering things. That would just be fair. But man, all I'm losing is sleep, and that's making me not remember stuff. Uh, I did not have an adventure in game mastering this week because total player autonomy means players can take off and do whatever they want. All the players from the island last week have gone. All their characters are in training, so we had a bunch of different characters, and they wanted to do different stuff. So I got to play this week, which is one of the benefits of being in a Gygaxian campaign is that you don't have to you're not the only DM. You don't have to DM all the time. Sometimes you just get to play. So I am. Jeff posted about the game. I don't have to talk about it. The other things I did this week were some kind of fun and some kind of painful. I went and saw Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and I also went and saw. Um, I went and saw, or I watched the last episode of Halo. But before we do that, I ran across this, and this is speaking of being drunk. I ran across this list, and I just want to. I got a theme from this list, and I want to see if you sense the same pattern that I sensed. This is a list of the 20th drunken cities in America. I'm not going to read all of them, but I'm going to read through number 10. I want you to tell me if you sense the same pattern I did.
I love pattern recognition. Let's do this.
Number 1, Appleton, Wisconsin. Number 2, Oshkosh, Nina, Wisconsin. Number 3, Green Bay, Wisconsin. Number 4, Madison, Wisconsin. Number 5, Fargo, North Dakota. Number 6, La Crosse, Alaska, Wisconsin. Number 7, Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. Number 8, Ames, Iowa. Number 9, Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Number 10, Mankato, North Mankato, Minnesota, and number 11, Wausau, Wisconsin.
Detecting a pattern, definitely.
My word. What is in the cheese up there?
I just think that, they talk about Midwestern nice. I just think that it's nice that some places in Wisconsin fake being sober long enough to let other states chart once in a while. That's just polite. So, yeah, Wisconsin. They told me a couple of months ago on Twitter that Wisconsin was the drunkest state in America now. That explains Red Letter Media.
Which is funny because I'm a long time, or I was when I still watched sports on TV. I was a huge Green Bay Packers fan. And from all the fans I've met in football, they've got some of the best fans. They never struck me as drunkards. Not like the Seahawks fans, anyway.
Seahawks fans get really, really drunk.
They get pissed before the gates open at the stadium.
Okay.
But they're great, man. It's like chill Pacific Northwest. Like yeah, one or two drunken fights maybe throughout the whole game, but you can go in there with full Green Bay Packers regalia and get no more hassle than gentle ribbing and trading jibes back and forth. Really cool people, completely messed up even before the game.
I had somebody on Twitter last night comment that he flew on a flight directly from New Orleans to Wisconsin. And his first thought when getting off the plane in Wisconsin was, man, this city has a lot of bars. So, anyways, I want to do a quick pocket review of Halo.
Yeah, you were so disappointed with the first episode. I can't believe you finished. I want to hear this.
Yeah, I watched all 9 episodes. Do you remember when I was reviewing Discovery a few weeks ago or a month ago? I said about Discovery that they didn't screw everything up. That is, not everything about the show was bad, I think is what I said. That's not true for Halo.
Ooh.
Everything about the show was bad except maybe the special effects. The special effects were mostly decent. And I'm not going to go into a laundry list of bad things, but everything else you can think of was bad. This was not a Halo TV series. This was some other random cyberpunk script that wasn't very good, that someone had lying around in a drawer, that they just put the names of Halo characters on and produced. It was not about Master Chief or Cortana or anybody else. And it was awful, 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 terrible, awful.
I mean, if you're gonna roll the dice, if you're a betting man, that's what you bet on, right? How many IP tie-ins aren't awful?
It was absolutely a skin suit series. And by skin suit, it refers to Iowa Hawks. Comment that, you take something, kill it, skin it, dance around wearing its skin, demanding to be respected. Apparently, that's what the Wheel of Time series was. And that's what this particular Halo series was. There is, in the show, there's a Covenant human spy who's a woman, and she comes to Reach to get a hold of this artifact, and Master Chief ends up falling in love with her, and they end up having sex, and Cortana stands there and watches them, which is
All right. I don't. What the? You're right. I don't need to know any more about this show.
thematically, and in terms of the character of Master Chief, it is absolutely out of character. If they had made this show about someone else in the Halo universe, maybe a different Spartan, or a Marine or something, or a orbital drop shock trooper who did that, you could maybe see that working, because they're not the Chief or they're not a Spartan. But being about Master Chief, no, that is not who Master Chief is. It's just a terrible show, and it's not a Halo show, and they got just about everything wrong. So it's not worth seeing even once. I cannot give it even the faintest recommendation. It wasn't interesting on its own merits. If it had been made into its own series, it would have still been terrible.
All right.
So yeah,
Irredeemable trash.
yes.
No, but I'm way more interested in your movie viewing this week.
Doctor
Because
Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, I happen to get lucky in that while technically you don't have to have watched 2 previous Marvel TV series on Disney to understand the movie, boy, does it help. It really, really helps. This is not technically a spoiler, but in the Marvel What If series, there is a what if where Agent Carter gets the super soldier injection and becomes Captain Britain. So she becomes the big buff person instead of Captain America. And then in the trailer for this movie, you see the Captain Britain shield end up embedded in a wall. So it's not a spoiler because it was spoiled in the trailer, but yes, having watched the What If cartoon prepared me for a lot of the things that happened in this movie, including Captain Britain, and it also prepares you for the multiverse and some of the things that happen with Doctor Strange. You don't need to have seen it to understand the movie, but boy, does it help. And even though the Loki TV series had a bunch to do with the time travel and alternate universes, you don't need to have seen that. It absolutely doesn't help. In fact, it will just confuse things more than anything else. And the other one was WandaVision, which helps explain the Scarlet Witch's motivations in this and why she's so different than she was the last time you may have seen her in a Marvel Universe movie. So not necessary to see this movie, but if you saw WandaVision, boy, does it help. I don't know if this is a strength of the MCU or if it's a weakness of the MCU. That everything builds on everything prior, and it rewards people who've been watching it with knowing what's going on even more. it may have been a detriment in this case because I feel like there are large gaps that would have been filled in if you had watched What If and WandaVision, but I don't know. There are also large gaps left. If you watched WandaVision, you're like, but what about this? But what about that from WandaVision? It seems like they just forgot a bunch of WandaVision to try and make the show, to try and make the movie happen. You're like, but didn't this happen? Didn't that happen? Wasn't she going to do this other thing? So it's kind of crazy that way. The movie wasn't a bad movie. It was enjoyable. It was made by Sam Raimi. And so, yeah, it's a Sam Raimi movie. If you go into it thinking it's a Sam Raimi movie, there are parts of it that could have been lifted straight out of Army of the Dead. And they were so much fun. So much fun to watch. And then again, there are parts that are, while not bad in and of themselves, are kind of eye-rolling in current year.
Sounds like a good gimmick.
I
mean,
did enjoy the movie a lot, but there were parts that were kind of eye-rolling and a little bit upstagey. Doctor Strange kind of got upstaged in his own movie, and I didn't like that. It happens too often in current year, and it kind of makes me angry because I'm getting, you see it all the time now, where a certain class of hero, and I think you know what I mean, gets upstaged in their own movies, whereas other classes of heroes, and I'm not just talking about superheroes, don't get upstaged in their own movie. So yeah, it's kind of obnoxious, kind of annoying. So it was a good movie. It was a fun movie. And
I don't know. I got to challenge you here for a sec, DW, because I hear you, and we've talked about movies and we've seen movies that were like, yeah, these are the problems, but I enjoyed it because of X or Y and Z. But what you just described doesn't sound like a good movie at all. Full stop. So, was there anything actually entertaining or valuable in it?
There was so much that was entertaining. It's a good superhero movie. The movie starts out with a climactic battle. That's the first fight in the movie, is this big climactic battle. And I'm like, wow, this feels like the end of the movie. And then it just amps up from there. It's got periods of absolutely mind-boggling cosmic wonder in it, which is great for a movie called The Multiverse of Madness. They have guest cameos from actors that you absolutely don't expect, who I hope will be back in later movies. Baron Mordo returns in a really unexpected way. All the act scenes are done just incredibly well. They tie in with things we've seen before. I despise the modern need to put a character arc on every character because most of them don't need it, especially in superhero movies, and they're misapplied. James Bond doesn't need a character arc, and for the longest time, he didn't have any, and that was great. He started as James Bond, he lived as James Bond, and by the end of the movie, he was still James Bond. That's what ruined the second Iron Man movie is they had to give him a character arc, so they had him regress to the loser he was at the beginning of the first movie. And that's what ruined every bit of his progression in the first movie, is he went back to being drunk, irresponsible Tony Stark. So Doctor Strange didn't need a character arc, but they gave him one anyway, but it actually worked. It was well done. And the lessons he learns and what he goes through and stuff were organic to the character and made a lot of sense because he's going through the multiverse of madness. So again, I hope I'm not spoiling anything when I say that he meets alternate versions of himself. You have to expect that in a movie called The Multiverse of Madness that he's going to go through the multiverse and travel to alternate realities, alternate timelines, and meet alternate versions of himself. And seeing himself in alternate worlds, you know, he learns lessons. This is partially the old plot of A Man Learns a Lesson, as pointed out by, I believe, Robert Heinlein. But yeah, so whether you're in it for really awesome superhero battles, this time mainly focusing around magic, there's a lot of those, and they're so good. The super battles in this movie are just awesome. I loved them. I would watch the movie again just to see those battles. There's one on Comertage. There's one in a New York street. There's one in an ancient ruin. They were so well done. They were so interesting. And they were, the movie is fast paced and it's entertaining as heck to watch. The things I had problems with, I am solely noting because I think that people who listen to the show are likely going to have problems with, and I think they would be angry if I didn't mention them. They would feel like I had gypped them, like I had concealed something they'd want to know if I didn't tell them.
Well, I think that's fair. It's fair to hear what actually you liked about it, and for my part, I do like it when a movie is successful at some of the things it sets out to do, especially with a Marvel type movie where you do want your fancy set piece battles and cool powers and everything like that. Chat's lively, but chat's lively in an opposite direction. They don't want nothing to do with cape stuff.
My work is done.
I still like superhero movies. I still like good superhero movies. I haven't seen Moon Knight. I haven't seen Hawkeye. I haven't seen the Eternals. I haven't seen Shang-Chi. I haven't seen Black Widow because those all looked like garbage. But this looked like a good movie from the trailers, and so I went and saw it, and I was right. It's a good movie.
Last word though, it was a good movie. I didn't know Sam Raimi directed it until a couple of days ago. And you mentioned that there's a couple of Sam Raimi scenes. Was it just a couple of scenes? Was it a gimmick, or is it an actual Sam Raimi film?
It is a Sam Raimi film while also being an MCU film. So,
cool.
It isn't full on Evil Dead 2. On the other hand, it is kind of a horror movie. People who say it's a horror movie are right. It's a superhero horror movie. There are a lot of it's not so bad you can't take a kid to it, but yeah, it's pretty horrifying in parts. So yeah,
as to be expected, combining the multiverse with the events of WandaVision.
I mean, it deals with the Darkhold, which is the book of evil magic in the Marvel universe, and it deals with evil magic and having to the consequences of that and having to stomp on that. There are, demonic beings that have to be fought. There are legitimate Cthulhu-esque monsters, and I don't mean like Cthulhu himself, but primordial evil things from the creation of the universe. There are undead that show up, spirits of the damned. Um, People get taken over. There are some implied deaths and blood. I mean, it's a superhero movie, so you don't see people getting killed bloodily, gorily on scene, but you definitely get an implied death and blood showing that that's happening. So yeah, it's kind of scary in parts. It's a horror movie,
Cool.
and it's the same Raimi horror movie. So those scenes are not without dark humor, but it is a grim humor to them. See, now you dragged all that out of me. I was trying to cut that short so we could get on to the.
I take all the blame on myself. I should have known I wasn't going to get a short answer out of Daddy Warpig.
He's just tired of hearing me talk because we've been gaming every Sunday. Was our finally, I get the limelight. I get the mic. So no, it's your show.
Hey, speaking of having the mic, it's awesome to have you back. It's so good to have you back. Our former co-host Brian Niemeier, welcome back.
It's fantastic to be here. Thank you both. Missed you, and I missed you, chat. How you doing? It's fantastic to be here. Thank you both.
So we're here to talk about your latest, greatest Combat Frame XSeed novel. Before we get to the Indiegogo campaign, do you want to do a brief introduction for anybody listening who might not be familiar with your work?
Sure. Yeah, I kicked it off in 2018, and the idea came from making two observations. Well, really, one observation about two related but separate genres, and that's Eastern and Western mech fiction. Eastern mainly in the form of anime, right? And in the West, in games and some other media, but like BattleTech, for example. And I noticed that they both evolved to these dead ends in an aesthetic and narrative sense, right? So if you look at anime, like at least in the period when I was first planning the series, which goes back to 2003, by the way, everything was either like you had your NGE clones and then you just had your Gundams. And that was pretty much it. Like there was nothing like Gunbuster Votoms or anything like that anymore. The market had just become monopolized by these two big brands. And then in the West, as one of my readers described it, it just descended into like the gray goo space marine meat grinder and then started getting woke. So I decided to do the Jurassic Park thing and say, well, let's take some of this DNA out of this and put it in here and see if we can evolve past this dead end. So that was Combat Frame XSeed. It was taking the best, like still healthy elements of Eastern and Western Mecha, smashing them together and coming up with something new. And people really seem to like it, judging by the fact that I've raised tens of thousands of dollars on the project from Indiegogo alone. Like, people really seem to believe in it and be hungry for it, and so they're voting with their wallets.
Outstanding. I've become a big fan myself. Full disclosure, I backed some of your previous books. Really big fan.
He's made some excellent Build-A-Mechs, by the way, folks.
Oh, we are going to get to that. Oh my goodness. All right, so I'm going to put up the picture here because for those of you who know, this is going to be a really exciting. If you haven't actually seen the campaign yet, this really exciting image here at the top, and I'm sharing this for anybody who's watching on YouTube.
I'm showing the Combat Frame Z-strike XSeed picture.
Yeah, here's the Z-strike XSeed Indiegogo, and look at that beautiful. This is the front cover. Look at that beautiful cover, and if I remember correctly, the caption on this one is Grenzmark 4, and that gets me all sorts of tingly inside as someone who's read the whole series. So what's going on in your latest Giant Mecha series?
Well, this one is going to begin with the main characters from the previous book in military prison, because the general setup is like cultural pariahs recruited against their will to help save humanity. Like, that's what happened previously, who then failed. So they take the blame. And so the very beginning, we've got to start with a jailbreak, which then leads into a heist, a la Star Trek 3, kind of inspired by that, if you guys take my meaning, which then segues into a campaign to rally disaffected space colonies against the main human government, like the One World government, which has been completely manipulated and subverted into a plaything for a ruthless madman. Plus, giant robot fights and explosions, as always.
That's sort of one of your calling cards in this series, isn't it? The giant mech battles are, important. Like, they're your big set pieces, but there's a lot going on amongst all the characters. There are many different factions in play in this world.
Yeah, and we're bringing back some of the factions from the first series that people really loved. I mean, really, they never went away. They just went behind the scenes, as factions do when they get to a certain level of power. So it turned out at the end of the last book that a certain faction, a certain player that people thought had been removed from the board was actually the chess master the whole time behind everything. And the Guardian Angels are going to be confronted with that fact and have to deal with it.
Yeah, and you've mentioned and or hinted at that character several times in the last book, and I think one or two of your short stories as well. So the readers are well aware of the players that are coming in. How does it play with people who haven't read the books? Like, is there a place to start if you've never read any of this stuff?
Yeah, so there are two separate series. Again, I kind of did the Gundam thing, right, where you could reasonably come in on Zeta without having watched original Mobile Suit Gundam, for example, or you could really watch Stardust Memory without having watched Zeta. So while the S series, so that would be Combat Frame XSeed S, Combat Frame XSeed Double S, and Combat Frame Z-strike XSeed, are their own standalone series. They are also a sequel to the original 3 Combat Frame XSeed books. So if you're looking for a jumping on point here, you just want to get started without having to go back and reread the original series, I wrote S as a point of departure, as a jumping on point. And that's why, by the way, everyone who backs at any level gets all 3 S series ebooks. You get SSS and Z-strike. So you don't need to collect anything else. You don't have to go searching around Amazon to get up to speed. You can hit the ground running. I also am offering all of the ebooks, and if you like Dead Tree, all of paperbacks. So you can read the whole saga and see how it unfolds and be like, oh, I see what that seed planted, pardon the pun, in the very first book. Like, I see how that grows hideous, murderous fruit in the last book. Cool. Hopefully you say cool.
Hopefully you say cool.
I think people in chat are saying cool, so that's a good sign.
They're saying chat. Because you've got some astute and meticulous readers. I am not one of them. We have regular conversations about like what's going on in the background, or what's been happening from book to book, and I find that I don't retain most of it. But that's what makes every new book a surprise. But yeah, confirmed. There's lots of stuff sort of going on in the background that comes back. So the main players this time, and you're obviously avoiding naming names. So you've got the Guardian Angels are the characters from the previous book, and they're the scapegoats for the downfall of Earth. And so we've got Earth's military versus the alien invasion versus the Guardian Angels versus Mystery Chess Master versus who else are we looking for? And what is Z-strike? What does that mean?
Wow. Okay, that's hard to get into without major spoilers. But okay, who here has seen the Platypus Girl who occasionally pops up, like the twisted-looking Disney princess-looking
Yeah.
gal? Looks like a caffeine addict. Yeah. Okay. So that's Heather, known more widely by her professional handle of Z-strike. Okay. Now, she started out as a crusading investigative journalist who got too close to the main player behind the scenes, who really didn't appreciate that. And she also is the same, I don't know, you could say race or possibly strain of the social pariahs as the Guardian Angels. She's like the same kind of thing that they are. So it's really easy to put her behind the 8-ball. So her life was almost completely destroyed. I mean, it just was. Like, to show how serious this dude is, to make an example of her, he destroyed her whole colony world.
The whole planet.
Had it butchered by a merciless alien crystal bug army. So the lackey water carrier of the big bad who did that directly is Coalition Marshal Edward Zebig, and she once belonged to his black bag unit. The unit patch was like his monograms is just a Z in a circle. So she just struck it through because she really hates this guy, and so that's where she got her handle. Because she kind of bases her new identity around hating him. So she showed up in the previous book to play the Obi-Wan to the Guardian Angels. It's like, look, you guys don't know how to use your powers. I'm going to show you how to do it so you have a chance at survival this time. Except they weren't really having it and told her to get lost in no uncertain terms. So she's like, okay, fine. We'll see how you do on your own. Well, seeing how they did on their own. So one faction that you left out is Pax, who Z-strike works for now. And they'd already made overtures to the Guardian Angels, so it's not too big a spoiler to say that the GAs are going to need help, and PAX is like the only organization out there that has the resources to do that. So let's just say the title of the book hints at an alliance.
Mm-hmm. And PAX is something that is not, or to my memory, hasn't been completely explained or explicitly explained, because it's a, you said that it's got great resources, but it's another one of those behind the curtain players. Can you tell us more about that? I'm trying to get a mental model of all the, and so you've got this. I mean, this is just, we're just talking about the local, the stars local to our solar system, and there's so many different factions playing against each other. So back to my question, like, what is PAX?
Well, I can tell you about one key member of PAX, who is 007, the emotional support platypus, without whom Heather just couldn't function at all. He consumes $10,000 worth of mealworms per annum. So that's what he's pulling down. How are you doing? Yeah, I don't think that good.
That's a good job.
He's also venomous, like one of the few venomous mammals. Which actually did come in because, all right, here's how much I went over backwards for my backers. One backer of XSeed S said, "Okay, I'm in." Oh, it was a pulp archivist who may or may not be here. He said, "I'm in, but one character has to be taken down by platypus venom." I said, "Okay."
It happened.
It did happen. So that's one thing I have to look forward to in XSeed S. But no, yeah. So in the preview of Z-strike XSeed at the end of Double S, we do see that the big bad isn't the only shadow manipulator who's been pulling the strings on the rest of the world. And that is where the first series comes in, because two characters from the first series ended up parlaying various military and economic and industrial resources that they gained through their careers into massive power bases. And one used it to turn like the common human, like star-spanning government into his personal sock puppet for his own selfish vendetta, which he masks as altruism. Like, oh, I'm trying to preserve mankind from this alien threat. But if you objectively look at his decisions, he may not be playing with a full deck. He may not be honest with himself.
I said as much.
Yeah.
I said as much from the from the introduction of that character. I was like, do all the people reading this book know they know he's a psycho, right?
Oh, totally. In both senses, like you could argue he's both psychopathic and psychotic. So that's a heady mix. But also brilliant, ruthless, well-connected, and with more money than Cressus. So yeah, he's now stepping in as of Z-strike to just run things more directly. So he's been playing this game, he calls it, looking for capable individuals to succeed, not necessarily him, but succeed someone important to him whom he believes is vital. And that's where his reasoning really falls apart, because it's more this person is vital to him, but again, because he's a psychopath, he sees no difference between what's vital to him and everyone else. So he's kind of gone off the rails. Well, this other character from about the same era as him just immediately went underground. He saw the way things were going, which way the wind was blowing, and thought, okay, well, I'm going to take my resources and my network and just go underground. So he's actually been working through a particular religious order of monks who are historians par excellence, even to the point of digitizing people's memories and like creating holodeck representations of them that they can consult as primary sources on historical matters. Right. So for people who've been wondering about the Saculum, I'm talking about the guy who's like their patron and backer, right? So he founded PAX. That's where PAX comes from, is this rival who's this humanitarian. Like, he's the one who's actually pro-humanity because, as the name suggests, their mandate is no more war ever. It's just too devastating. Like, it's mutually assured destruction. The only way to win is not to play, so we need a different solution. Are you with me so far?
I think, yeah. What the picture that's really coming to my mind is that these two factions are sort of coming out into the open, and that's part of the conflict now that sort of Earth has fallen, and the struggle for survival is desperate. That these two factions are finally putting their pieces into play, and it's not just us trying to survive the aliens. It's everybody sort of trying to come out ahead.
Yeah, the Cold War is going hot, so I love to add wrinkles to linear conflicts. So the previous two books focused on the genocidal war the Inzu were waging on mankind for reasons no one clearly understood. But now, even though that's still definitely going on, and the Zoos have won a major battle, instead of pulling together, now humanity's going to fall to infighting in the middle of this.
That's unusual. I mean, it's not entirely expected. You figure when the aliens showed up, people would just rally.
Right, and they would have if not for this megalomaniac behind the scenes who just wants he wants his whoopee. That's what he wants, really. Never got over that.
Poor guy. So that's the backdrop. The backdrop, all these forces are coming into play. There's still an ongoing extermination attempt. We still don't actually understand what the aliens are doing. Are we going to get there in this book? Like, this is the conclusion, right?
This is it. Yeah, it's not only the conclusion of the S arc, but this concludes my vision for Combat Frame XSeed altogether. I had material outlined for 6 books, starting like almost 20 years ago, and this exhausts my material. So if there is going to be any more adventure in this universe, I will have to start over and begin brainstorming and outlining from scratch. Although I am way faster at that now, I will say.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I want to put a pin in that because we had a question earlier about your future plans, but let's focus on this one. So are we going to get some of the answers, or are there which questions? Sorry, that's not fair. I got to read the book, but there are questions that are going to be answered. Is that right? Are we going to get some of the answers we've been looking for?
Yes, but as you said, I don't believe in just hand feeding my readers, right? I respect their ability to interpret the text and to find the answers they're looking for. So you've read the Soul Saga, right? The Soul Cycle? Okay. I gave all the answers there. And there are actually a lot more of them in that series because it dealt with more metaphysical concepts. So the answers will be there in Z-strike XSeed. I'm going to type loose ends. The one you mentioned, yes, because of the main plot twist that happened in the climax of Double S. I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
That will give, like, that is our avenue to finally get into the zoo's psychology, because we now have someone who can actually just tell humanity, hey, look, this is what they want.
Right.
So yeah,
that'd be nice.
Yeah.
because well, I mean, it works great as a horror trope. Like if you're watching Alien or Aliens, right? Like who cares? They're just monsters. But you've made it pretty clear that these are, these are human-like sentient beings. We just don't know exactly what they're like and what they want, right? It'd be really unsatisfying if they just stayed monsters.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see where I'm going with that, right? I'm not going to leave it like that.
Mm-hmm.
With the heel turn from the previous book, and also being in my playtest campaign, like you know the answer, like we went over it in game. So you're playing coy, but he knows, folks. He knows that there is an answer to this, which is probably why he asked. So I'm going to share it with the rest of you, although my game playtesters do often get they get the skinny on the secrets behind the deep lore. So that is a good reason to back that level when that comes out. Also, it's a ton of fun. I'm just blowing my own horn here. That's what everybody said. Yeah, there. See.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, let's talk about these perks. Like, you are generous, as far as I can tell. You are generous, like for people who jump in and sort of, hey, I wanna play test this RPG. I want to play test a card game, or I want to. Used to call for beta readers. You haven't done that, but basically, when you buy in to the your campaign, like you deliver, like you give a lot of information. You can just talking about like what happens in the background. You just get that. That said, what kind of good stuff are we doing this time around for your final huzzah, as far as perks and benefits and everything?
Well, we've got fan favorites like the aforementioned Build-A-Mech, of which there is one slot left, folks. One slot left, and if
One
you're not
slot
familiar,
left.
yeah, if you're not familiar with that, well, Dornall, why don't you, as a satisfied BAM level backer, describe the Build-A-Mech concept and process?
It's thank you. It's one of my favorite things about this whole enterprise, and it's the process. The Build-A-Mech perk is your ability to put your personal stamp, your personal style into this world. And the way it comes about is really exciting because basically, even if you have no idea at all, you get on the horn with Brian, phone call, Discord, whatever, and you determine what sort of giant fighting mech you want to build or design. And it's a collaborative experience. Not in the sense of, here's your guide rails, right? Because Brian's very open to the sorts of things that you want. He's just going to make sure that it fits into the story. So you take as little or as much time as you want to figure out what you want. And that includes going over like, okay, what does this mech do? Who pilots it? Who what sorts of weapons and defenses does it have? What does it look like? That sort of thing. And after you've hit upon these ideas, you go to the artist, Ardenon, hanging out in the chat. And you work with an artist, the three of you work together, and eventually Brian just steps back and says, okay, guys, have fun. And then you work with the artist to come up with the design. And if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to try to show some of those examples of those artwork in the campaign. Here, we've got some examples here. The Phantom. This was actually my Build-A-Mech from the previous campaign. And it's a great process. You come in. Well, I want to talk about this one in depth because I actually did not have a strong idea on what I wanted to do. And I spoke to Brian about it, and I said, "Okay, Brian, help you. Like, what sorts of mechs can we design? Like, what's going to help you?" And through the back and forth conversation, I decided on the type of mech I wanted to build. And then when I got to the artist, we nailed down the look and feel that you have here, sort of like alien samurai style armor. Uh, I love the cool cloak too. That was Ardenon's idea. You actually get to work on that together back and forth with the artist. And in the end, you've created something sort of interesting and unique. And I won't lie, there's no small amount of pride in it. And the process is satisfying, but then the end result is, let's just say, when you design a mech with Brian and talk about the sorts of roles it might play in a conflict or a narrative or something like that, Brian will do his best to not only use those ideas in the narrative. You will see and read familiar settings or themes or ideas or something like that in the book. Uh, he will also make sure that it plays a role in the story that no other mech could. That's the key. It's not just oh cool, there's the mech I designed, waving at the camera in the background, right? It becomes, it's either used by an important character or used in a situation where it does something to move the story forward that no other combat frame could.
And Phantom's a
So
great example because Dornall designed Heather's mech. So yeah, you got to design the combat frame for the pseudo title character of the final book, but you didn't know it was going to be at the time. But again, I give with both hands, you see. And I also vetoed her insistence that, hey, it looks great, but it needs more glitter and stickers. Like, she thought it needed some, like, gold spray painted macaroni or, like, racing stripes. But I left it the way you wanted it.
yeah, we just fully form and functional. Heather did not get much say on that one.
Yeah, she'll take what she's given and like it. So.
And that's a great point, right? And Brian isn't afraid to do that with you, to like give you a really important role. Like I said a second ago, your guy's not just going to be a cameo in the background. Here's another new one. This art's cut off on my screen, but
Yeah, speaking of not being cameos, really quickly, you can also be in a book. You can just make yourself a character. You can make a self-insert. A lot of people do that. And then if you really want to take it all the way to 11, you can be killed in a book, which gives you the ability to not only be a character in XSeed, but I will kill you. I will kill you. So you know why that one often sells out.
So I think I asked this before, but do people buy that to have themselves killed, or do they put in like a buddy or a girlfriend or an enemy to be killed for laughs?
Both. It's a murderous rainbow with every color of the spectrum in it. It's beautiful, really.
It's cool. I experienced the bee in the book perk, and that was a surprise to me. Even after doing the Build-A-Mech, I was surprised at the bee in a book because my friend who paid for the perk thought she was just going to give a name and just be like, yeah, I'm going to name this character. And then when we sat down on the phone call, she was completely taken aback by Brian's, the back and forth. You did the same thing that you did with the Build-A-Mech with the character. Like, no, I'm not just going to put your name and face on this character. Like, tell me about this character. Like, what sort of role do you want to have in the story? or flip it around. Here are different roles I need for this story. Do any of those fit? Right.
Yeah, one of my favorite examples of that comes from CL, who's in chat, Catholic Lancer, big shout out, and Ben Wheeler. I'm not sure if he's here today, but good friend of the show and of mine. And the two of them came up with this like convergent evolution, and yeah, I think it was for the previous two books. Ben came up with a Build-A-Mech based on a Valkyrie, right? Not the Macross kind, but the Norse legend kind.
Mm-hmm.
And quite separately, CL said, I want to do a custom character named Avril Valkyrie, who's like a J-pop idol, who uses a mech in her shows. So I'm like, oh, well, this is easy. So I just gave one backer's BAM to the other backer's custom character. And I don't know, I'd ask CL, but I think they meshed perfectly. Just right on brand. So I'm like, wow, I've got two different people separately being like the branding and marketing team for this fictional character. And it worked. So that's kind of
I love it.
Look forward to. Yeah.
And this goes back, and I'm going to tie everything together that we've been talking about for like the last few months. This also goes back to the organic growth of a tabletop game, right? You have such great results out of your outlining and your writing process, but these organic moments that come about when you start collaborating with the readers just makes it that much more interesting and exciting. Like it makes the book better, while at the same time making getting collaboration and making it entertaining for the people who back the book. It's just cool. And it's more so than here's an example from board gaming. The board game Viticulture is a game about what's it called? Making wine. And all the backers on Kickstarter got to submit photos of themselves, and they got put on cards. All the different visitors to the winery and all the people working there and everything, they all got to be on cards. Like, this isn't just you waving from the background or having your art in a card, which is really nice. Like, it's better.
If I'd known about that, I totally would have submitted like this is Sam Hyde and Nick Rochefort. Is that one vineyard skit they did? But
that would have been good.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry for the digression. I just didn't want to get too enmeshed in just talking about my thing. But
so anyway, I know I'm gushing, but the perks are a lot of fun. You definitely deliver. Build-A-Mech is on a timetable. If nobody's claimed it by the end of this weekend, I probably will, and you'll have to suffer through. I mean, not to toot my own horn, but at least 2 of my Build-A-Mechs are already in this story.
And that one, by the way, is also another of CL's, the Typhon there.
Oh yeah, this yep, I remember that one.
My favorite of yours is still the dome.
Is it?
You were so enthused. You had it all figured out.
Oh, that was another thing. Yeah, you mentioned the extrasolar colonies when you're talking about the description. Here's another example of how the process works so well.
Scroll up to the CF Tech Guide, and you can see it.
Oh yeah.
Let's show the folks. And it gives me a great chance to talk about our first stretch goal. But proceed, please.
Yeah, because this was this is a case where I had a general idea of
There it is. Lower
the
left.
type of combat frame I wanted to make. Wasn't much of a combat frame, more of a mobile hovering artillery piece. And because the previous book featured a lot of extrasolar colonies, I thought, well, okay, here's my concept for sort of an extrasolar planet defense mech. And long story short, we went back and forth, and Brian was able to take my idea, refine it, and totally run with it. We together on the phone, I think it was a long conversation. I think it was like 2 or 3 hours. Like we did all the world building. We built a whole colony from like concept to execution. And yeah, and there's the Ardenon's product at the end where he put his own style and touches to it.
He's phenomenal. He does all of these concept images, by the way, folks. So he is the expert who's going to draw your BAM.
Absolutely. Which is funny, and you were really kind to me because my initial concept for the dome was a mech that you had already designed, and it was in a short story. I hadn't read that short story, but you didn't just shut me down and say, "Yeah, we have that one already."
Variants are great.
It's cool stuff. So this is the stretch goal that we're looking at the cover for. What are we reaching for, and what does it do?
Okay, well, this is the sequel to our hit Illustrated Combat Frame Tech Guide. And it may have been Ardenon who gave me the impetus for the first one. And he said, hey, it would be cool to do an art book, right? Ooh, yeah, like a coffee table, like a companion guide. And then I looked over at my bookshelf and saw, oh, I've got the old Star Wars essential guides over here. Gen Y kids will definitely remember, but I think it was Del Rey Books. They're the main Star Wars publisher. Put out these like 8x12 trade paperbacks that would just be like, here's everything you need to know about this area of Star Wars lore. And they had the Essential Guide to Vehicles and Vessels, which were like in the style of a Jane's Defense Weekly, which publishes like the specs on all like the military aircraft that comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And so inspired by that, and also mahq.net, which Gundam old heads will know, did the same thing with Mecha Anime series. Like even to the point that Gundam Official now, like the official Gundam website, just totally cribbed their style. Although not as good, I don't think. So I'm doing a series of blog posts since the beginning on, okay, here are the real world stats on all the combat frames, folks. And, oh, Bradford Walker is pointing out the essential guides are now collected into massive coffee table books. All right, that's awesome. Love these things. But anyway, so I just put these ideas together, I just synthesized them, and we did one book, which again was hugely popular, and it's just everything you wanted to know about the combat frames from the original XSeed series, but we're afraid to ask. And a lot of people said, yeah, I love sitting down with like my phone or tablet or Kindle in one hand, and I got the Illustrated Tech Guide open in the other, and I love reading the mech battles and then looking like, ooh, Van Teef has this many kilograms of thrust on its thrusters, but Dead Drop's generator has this many megawatts of output, and it's like having the program for the boxing match, right? Only they're giant robots and they explode. So the first one covered the first series. This one is going to cover the S arc, and it'll be funded in full gorgeous color. Me and AA are still playing around with the background color. We're trying to pick one we like as if we're sampling wallpaper or something. But that will be made real when we hit $4,000, which we are rapidly sneaking up on.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I have a question about other stats, because we talked about the role-playing game perk. Are you planning on doing another playtest session after this book?
Oh, we got to test the dome, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, there's your answer.
Looking forward to that. And any chance that we could get a similar illustrated combat frame tech guide? Now, the tech guide's super exciting, and I appreciate what you're doing there, but what about just PDFs of role-playing game stat sheets for all of these famous mechs?
Oh yeah, I mean, I have all their stats. Like the tech guide actually came about for me sitting down with the paper sheets for a lot of these CFs and going online doing the math to convert those figures into real world measures as much as possible. So yeah, I could totally see that.
And that's the other cool thing about the actual military conflicts in your game. Is it true that you use that game to actually model and game out the fights in your book?
Oh, you know it's true because you participated in it. Yep. The one reason that the battles feel so real and gritty in the books is, in a way, they are real. They're at least transcripts of war games.
Which is not as painful, or as the kids would say, cringy as you're not just writing a book about your D&D game, are you? You're actually you're just using the rules to model what might happen in a game, or in the story.
Right. I'm using it for, like you said, you said it all really when you talked about the BAM process as world building. Yeah.
Exactly.
There you go. I mean, you already said it all.
Well, all right. Well, I'll talk up the whole thing for you. Yes, I'm very biased. Full disclosure, I've been a backer, big fan of your work and everything like that. I know
The Printamex are
DW
coming, by the way.
Printamex. Oh, okay. Tell me about this.
Yes, this was our last stretch goal for the double S campaign, because Ardenon had turned me on to, hey, I got this guy, and he'll design custom mesh files for 3D printing. So why don't we make some Combat Frame minis and then offer like the STL files to backers as a perk? And I said, how about, yeah? Because I didn't even realize, I don't know, from 3D printing, I didn't even know that was possible. So I looked into it. We have now retained the services of an excellent independent contractor. AA is, like, he's already completed the first set of all-angle reference images for our first winning Combat Frame, because I held a reader poll on my blog and social media to determine which 3 Combat Frames from the original series would be printed. And the Grenzmark 1, the Thimblehead, was the first winner, so AA has fully rendered that. For the mesh artist to use as a reference, I'm going to kick that up to him probably today. Then we're also doing the Grenzmark 2, which I know folks in the chat love, and then the Grenzmark 3. So it's Grenzies a poppin'. And yeah, once I get this guy reference images for all 3 CFs, and he gets me the mesh and STL files, we're offering you, the backers, the chance to print your own 28mm Combat Frame minis for use in the Combat Frame XSeed role-playing game, or just as conversation starters. There's little knickknacks for your shelf.
I love it.
And heck, you could print out a whole army. You're limited only by the raw materials and your time. So that's coming up.
I love it. I'm actually not a war game miniatures guy. That sort of never appealed to me, but I'm excited about where it could go because, well, we might have mentioned this earlier, but I've designed a handful of mechs for this game, and I would like to have a figure of those.
Well,
So
CL had what I thought was an awesome idea along the lines you're talking about. He pointed out that, hey, mesh files are scalable. So you could take, say, just a Grenzmark II head and scale it up to be the same scale as a Gunpla. And he wants to do a Zeta Gren 2, which I approve. Just put a Grenzmark II grilled dome on top of the Zeta Gundam.
So that's it. I have to ask. Well, I've got all sorts of fun questions to go along with that. Anything else you want to say about this campaign, and do you have any more goodies to tell us about coming up?
Oh, I don't want to spoil it, but we're putting out new perks all the time. At least one every couple of days, sometimes more than that. So if you scroll down, we do have the original CF Tech guide signed by me. That's a recent one we offered. If you're more business minded, like let's say you're an indie author trying to get a foothold in the industry, or you're an old time radio reenactor or a comic artist, but you've got a project you want to get noticed, you can buy a full page ad for the reasonable price of $100. Shop around. You can get your project seen by everyone who reads Z-strike XSeed forever. Oh, along those lines, if you are an author, every author is only as good as his editor. Just ask F. Scott Fitzgerald. I'm offering my pro editing services because I am a professional editor. That's my second hat I wear. I don't just edit myself. I edit lots of authors. Actually, some of them bestsellers. Because of NDAs, I can't talk too much more about that. But yes, I'm an editor. My job is to take 3-star manuscripts and turn them into 5-star books. I can do that for you. And I'm offering development editing services. So those burning questions that authors have, well, how do I design my magic system? How do I do my world building? How do I make people care about these characters? How do I weave these plot threads together? That's dev editing, right? I'm offering that at a deep discount on my normal services, which can only be obtained at that discount through this campaign. So we have 3 pro editing spots open. I had to reduce the number available because I was just getting too swamped lately. Had to cut down on the workload, but there are just 3 available. Get in the door now. There's a generous 1-year deadline, so you got plenty of time to finish your book and get it to me. And if you don't feel like writing it, but you know the old cliche about the guy who approaches an author and is like, I've got this great idea for a story. I'll tell it to you and you write it, and then we split it 50-50, right?
Yeah.
Well, I will actually let you do the first part of that. You can come to me with your short story idea, and I will write it for you. You can commission a short story from a #1 best-selling Dragon Award-winning author, and I will realize your idea. Now, because the whole reason that initial scenario is a punchline among authors is that, the one who does the work actually owns it. So I will retain all rights to the story, but I'll collab with you and agree on exactly what form we want to release it in. Like, if you want it up on my Amazon author page for sale, we can do that. If you just want to keep it to gift to friends and family, or put it in a shoebox in your closet, that's up to you. But I will realize your story, and that's at the platinum backer tier, only offering one of those.
That's cool. And we haven't talked about this one much. Has anybody taken you up on the offer so far?
The short story commission.
Yeah.
Not yet, but this is your last chance. So I theorize that there were some big money backers who've been waiting since I first introduced that to see if I can close the deal on this series. And here we go, folks. It's book 3. It's the last one. This will be the third sci-fi fantasy series I have finished. So that's 3 more than Patrick Rothfuss or George R. R. Martin, by the way. So I think Martin actually has finished other series, but 3 more than Rothfuss. I know what I'm doing. I can stick the landing on these series, so I can do that for your story.
You should have used Scott, what's his name, for the Lies of Locke Lamora.
Oh, Lynch isn't done either?
No, he's still on book 3. That book 3 came out in 2013.
Bradford, why didn't you tell me?
But here's the fun part with that.
Okay.
He's still got 4 books left to write in that series. Supposedly number 4 is coming out real soon, like this year or next year. And then he just announced that he has plans for, now he hasn't written a book in the series for 9 years. Number 4 is coming out. He's got 3 more past that, and he's got plans, and I am not making this up, for a sequel series of 7 more books.
My word.
Okay. You better get started.
Now, apparently he has written other books for other things. It's not like he hasn't been writing books, but and some of them actually kind of sound interesting. So I haven't read them, but they kind of sound interesting. But still, man, I'm just thinking, if you do a 9-year gap between all 10 books left in that series, man.
Well, it's a good thing that he's been writing other stuff because, man, once you fall out of that writing habit, once you let the discipline atrophy, it is really hard to get back on the horse. So, good luck to him. I mean, meanwhile, we have Brandon Sanderson just turning out a book a minute and breaking all-time crowdfunding records with his 4 secret novels. So
that went real big. What's going on with him?
Last I heard, he had raised tens of millions of dollars, like over $30 million for 4 books, and then he and his team went and backed every single publishing project on Kickstarter. And if any of them were close to funding, they would push it over the top.
Wow. Does he know about your work yet?
He does. I have met him. Whether he cares about it or not, I don't know. And I'm on a different platform. But kind of missed the story, or missed the boat on that. But that's okay, because I don't need I don't need his help. I can do it on my own. I can do it with you guys. We can do this.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. You and me, we got this. Don't need Sanderson. Sell without him.
So
no, I'm tickled pink about that. Anyway, go ahead.
I predicted Sanderson would end up at 45 million based on how well he did in the first 24, 48 hours. Mm-hmm. He actually ended up on basically 42 million. So
okay.
I was pretty darn close.
You won the Showcase Showdown without going over. So yeah, that's a win. good job.
All right. Well, I can't believe how excited I am for this. Time's almost up on that Build-A-Mech goal. Let's shift gears for a sec. Well,
Sure.
first of all, Daddy Warpig, anything you want to know?
I just got to say this. I'm sorry to say this. We're coming up on an hour and a half.
Is that so?
Yeah.
Was that my stomach's rumbling? Because I haven't eaten yet.
All right. Well then let's wrap up. We did have one audience question I want to make sure to get to real quick. Brian, Rawl asks way back when, what's next?
Oh, this kind of gets into that NDA territory. But starting next month, I'm slated to begin a collaboration with one of those #1 best-selling authors I alluded to, and we are looking at collaborating on a sci-fi series, and it all depends on whether this other author can launch his brand to the level that like his team has foreseen, and it's looking good. It's looking like he's going to be able to pull it off. Like he's really rising meteorically. And he approached me and pretty much said, "Okay, well, look, you're the fiction guy. Like, you're the one who makes my books as good as they are. I want to bring you with me on this. I really can't do this without you. And so let's collab. And this will let me have an outlet for the fiction I really want to do. But I will also like give you a hand up. Like I will pull you up into the fleeing chopper, like the rising chopper of my platform. And what that would do is give me the exposure that his far larger and growing and about to explode platform can give. So this could not only jump my work up like to the next level, but several levels. Like we're talking looking at getting these books into airport kiosks level.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I can't say too much more, but that's my next immediate fiction project. And who knows, right? Like finishing this lengthy gosh, like XSeed's been going for 5 years now. It gives me freedom to open things up. So another thing I've got on the back burner is the long promised and anticipated Soul Cycle prequel series. I've got 4 books outlined from before Netherial that tell the story of how Zadok's Cosmos got to that point. So I can always do that. Yeah, the future's wide open and the sky's the limit. And I thank you guys, the chat in general, and you and Daddy Warpig in particular for helping get us there.
Well said. I think that's a great place to leave off. Unless there's any other thing you want to say about the campaign before we go.
Yes, I do. So, if you folks like the lore and millisecond action of Halo and the mind-bending intrigue of Neon Genesis Evangelion, then Z-strike XSeed is for you. Choose from awesome perks. Get the book before the general public. And remember, every perk tier comes with S and double S. Today, like I send those out once a day. I go through, look at my list of backers. So you'll begin getting rewards immediately. And then you'll get Z-strike XSeed, the conclusion to the hit Combat Frame XSeed series, as soon as it's ready, before the official Amazon launch. So get in there, support new pub science fiction, back that project. What are you waiting for? Get in there.
And just in case you were worried about that description, he's talking about the real Halo, not the skin suit Halo.
Yeah, I don't even know what you're talking about. Yeah, there are only 2 Halo games. So yeah,
Really? Which two?
Halo and Halo 2.
You didn't like Halo 3?
Didn't play it.
Oh, okay.
Like I'd stopped buying consoles by that point. So that's me. Like the PS2 I have here that I do my Final Fantasy stream on this channel on is my most up to date console. I got my rut and I'm comfy here. So
I know a lot of people hate on Halo 3 because it's so popular. They feel like, it's like the expected thing, and you can't like the popular thing because it's expected. But Halo 3 really is just a darn good game.
yeah, I got nothing against it. I just haven't played it, so I can't speak from experience. Yeah.
And you don't want to go buy, an entirely new console that's almost impossible to get anyway, just to play Halo 3 or buy the Master Chief Collection. I'm not suggesting that. I really liked Halo 3.
So noted for the record.
Well, it's definitely good to have you back on. I'm excited for this conclusion. I can't wait to hear what else is happening later. We'll probably see you again in the near future, Brian. Thanks for coming on. You got a lot of fans in chat. We love the chat. Thanks for coming out and hanging out with us live. I hope everybody listening later gets a chance to check out Combat Frame XSeed, whether the campaign's done or not. I hope you guys check it out. I'm done for this week. Until next time, everybody, have a good one. Daddy Warpig, it's all you.
Golly, it's been such an exciting day. Really, seriously, congratulations, Brian, for your success, not just with this Kickstarter already funding, but your success with all the other XSeed books in the 6-book series. It's amazing to see someone who I read first through the Sci-Fi Journal, and then I actually met through a completely different person. Who then, we invited on the show to become a co-host. Seeing such, great success, I'm excited to hear about your collaboration, and I'm looking forward to that. And wish you so much luck going forward. Not that I doubt your skill or your talent, but everybody needs some luck too, or could use it. And I think it's amazing what you've accomplished through long, hard work, developing your talents and growing your audience base. And I think it's anyone who looks at the path your career has taken could learn a lot of lessons on how to grow their audience and how to grow their material and how to keep at it and keep doing things well and work from strength to strength and keep on hustling until things break for them. As I say on Twitter a whole lot, you gotta respect the hustle because the hustle is everything when you're working in a field as crowded as writing. And people point this out. I saw it easily 3 or 4 times yesterday that the field in writing is so crowded right now. Alex Kursova or Alex of Krishova Magazine said that he gets people telling him, they will just give him their stories for free. They didn't even want to get paid for them. And his problem is he can't afford to publish even stories he gets for free. There are so many stories out there. And so in a field as crowded as writing, with publishing being so cheap in ebook form to do, being able to produce a quality project puts you head and shoulders above of other people, and being able to do it consistently and being able to do it flexibly to collaborate with your audience is an amazing talent that has no doubt greatly aided your rise, and being able to continue hustling and doing other things in the meantime is just great and admirable. And I wish to compliment you on all those things and to congratulate you on the opportunities that have opened up for you, because you absolutely deserve them. Encourage everyone to go to the Kickstarter, check out his books. There's a donation tier for all the ebooks if you haven't read any of them before, or all the paperbacks if you want to get, on Dead Tree copies of them. I likewise want to thank everyone who came and listened live, participated in the chat. This is Geek Gab. We're here on Saturdays, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. You can come and join us live. Also participating in our great and engaging chat with our unusually intelligent and amazingly awesome audience. Or you can listen later on youtube.com/geekgab. That's youtube.com/geekgab. We're available on the Apple iTunes Store. We're available on Google Play Store, and we're available on SoundCloud.com. So you can listen to us on the device of your choice, or on the web, or just download it to your computer.
And before we sign off, I did want to thank you for that lovely testimonial vote of confidence you guys gave me my start. It means a lot that you enjoy and approve of my work, because at the end of the day, I don't just do this for myself. I do this as a vocation from our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and I do it for the science fiction and fantasy and pulp readership that's been so poorly served by Old Pub these years. We're taking it back. Neo-patronage isn't coming. Neo-patronage is here. We're going to stay winning.
All right, folks, we are signing out for today. Don't you worry. Don't you fret. We will be back.